The Dominion War Council had never witnessed absolute silence in its chambers before. Yet now, as the holographic display showed an impossible vessel materializing at the edge of their most secure sector, not a single being dared breathe. The ship was massive, elegant, and unmistakably of human origin. Admiral Chorus, his crystalline form refracting light in agitation, finally broke the silence. This cannot be. The primitive apes were still burning fossil fuels less than a century ago. The CSS Starweaver hung in space like a sterling blade catching starlight. Its quantum drive cores pulsed with a steady blue heartbeat, and its hull gleamed with an otherworldly sheen that seemed to drink in sensor scans rather than reflect them. On its bridge, Commander Sarah Mitchell allowed herself a small smile as she watched the Dominion's defensive grid light up like a Christmas tree. "Status report," she called out, her voice steady despite the weight of humanity's future resting on her shoulders. Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced across his haptic interface. "Dominion vessels mobilizing, Commander. Counting 37 capital ships. Their weapons are hot, but targeting systems are having trouble getting a lock." As expected, Mitchell nodded. The Starweaver's metamaterial hull wasn't just for show. It was the culmination of 50 years of reverse-engineered alien tech and human innovation. Open a channel to their flagship. Let's give them their wake-up call. Across the sector, emergency alerts blared through every Dominion facility. The architect, supreme leader of the Dominion Coalition, materialized in the War Council chamber. Its energy form crackled with barely contained fury. "How did we miss this?" the beam demanded. "Our observation posts have monitored their planet for centuries. They were supposed to be containable for at least another millennium." Before anyone could respond, every display in the chamber shifted. Commander Mitchell's image appeared, her dark skin contrasting sharply with her pristine white uniform. The architect noticed something in her eyes. Not fear, not aggression, but amused confidence. "Greetings, leaders of the Dominion. I am Commander Sarah Mitchell of the Confederate spaceship Starweaver. We apologize for dropping in unannounced, but your communication protocols are somewhat outdated." The architect's form flared. "You dare?" "Yes, we dare," Mitchell cut in smoothly. "Humanity has been aware of the Dominion's presence for quite some time. We've watched your ships monitoring our world. We've intercepted your transmissions. We've studied your technology. And we've improved upon it." In the War Council chamber, Admiral Chorus's crystalline form vibrated with outrage. "Impossible. Our stealth systems are perfect." Mitchell's smile widened slightly. "Nothing is perfect, Admiral Chorus. Your crystalline form, for instance, creates a unique quantum resonance signature when agitated. Like now." The Admiral froze, his form suddenly still. "We come with an offer," Mitchell continued. "The Dominion has ruled this sector of space for 10,000 years. You've contained or subjugated dozens of emerging civilizations, keeping them dependent and weak. That era ends today." On the Starweaver's bridge, Lieutenant Chen spoke quietly. "Commander, they're attempting to target our quantum drive cores." Mitchell nodded, unsurprised. "Initiate the Mobius protocol." The Starweaver's hull rippled like liquid mercury. Across the Dominion fleet, targeting systems went completely dark. Sensor officers stared in confusion as their readings showed the human vessel existing in multiple places simultaneously, each reading as solid as the last. "As you can see," Mitchell addressed the stunned Dominion leaders, "we've developed a few tricks of our own. Humanity is willing to join the galactic community, but as equals, not subjects. You have 6 hours to consider our terms for peaceful cooperation. We've transmitted the details to your central database. And yes, we broke through your encryptions months ago." The architect's energy form pulsed rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "And if we refuse?" "The Starweaver isn't alone," Mitchell replied simply. "We've had a century to prepare, hidden in plain sight while your observers reported our primitive status. 6 hours, architect." Choose wisely. The transmission cut off. In the War Council chamber, chaos erupted as the implications sank in. The Dominion's perfect system of control, their careful manipulation of emerging species, had been completely undermined. Worse, they had no idea how many more human ships might be out there, waiting. On the Starweaver's bridge, Commander Mitchell settled back in her chair. "Now we wait," she said quietly. "Do you think they'll agree to negotiations?" Chen asked. Mitchell's expression turned serious. "They'll have to. Because if they don't, they'll soon learn that the Starweaver isn't just a ship. It's a message. Humanity won't be contained, controlled, or subjugated. And what they've seen today is just the beginning." As the 6-hour deadline began to count down, both sides prepared for what would come next. The Dominion's leaders frantically analyzed their options, their perfect order suddenly threatened by the species they dismissed as primitive. And aboard the Starweaver, humanity's representatives waited patiently, knowing they had just changed the galaxy forever. The true scope of human advancement remained hidden, a card yet to be played. Because while the Starweaver had shocked the Dominion, it was merely the herald. Behind it waited humanity's real surprise, a fleet of ships that would redefine the balance of power in the galaxy. The game of containment was over. The era of human ascendance had begun. And in the vast darkness of space, other species watched and waited, wondering if humanity's emergence would finally break the Dominion's iron grip on their futures. The next 6 hours would determine whether the galaxy would see a peaceful transition of power or the beginning of a war that would reshape civilization itself. Commander Mitchell knew which outcome she preferred, but she also knew that sometimes the price of peace was a convincing demonstration of power. The Starweaver had provided that demonstration. Now it was up to the Dominion to decide whether they would accept the new reality or learn firsthand just how far humanity had truly come. 4 hours into the Starweaver's ultimatum, the Dominion's capital world of Nexus Prime was a hive of frenzied activity. In the Grand Spire's diplomatic chamber, representatives from the Coalition's member species argued violently over the human revelation. The pristine chamber, with its soaring crystal walls and floating platforms, echoed with a cacophony of alien voices. Delegate Vixara, her serpentine form coiled tensely on her hover platform, addressed the assembly. "The humans have made fools of us all. Our observers watched their primitive nuclear tests, their clumsy space stations, their fumbling attempts at Mars colonization. It was all theater." Ambassador Zillan, representing the technologically advanced Mersani, raised his crystalline appendages for attention. "Perhaps that is precisely why we should embrace their offer. Any species capable of such long-term deception, of advancing so far while appearing primitive, they could be valuable allies rather than dangerous enemies." The architect's energy form pulsed at the center of the chamber. "Allies, they have revealed themselves through an act of military aggression. Their ship sits in our most secure sector, flaunting capabilities that should not exist." Meanwhile, aboard the Starweaver, Commander Mitchell reviewed the incoming data streams with her senior staff. The ship's quantum sensors had been busy mapping every transmission, every ship movement, every power fluctuation across the Dominion's networks. "They're mobilizing their reserve fleets," Lieutenant Chen reported, studying his displays. 17 battle groups detected dropping out of FTL at staging points across 3 sectors. Dr. Elena Santos, the ship's chief scientist, looked up from her own readings. "More interesting is what they're not doing. The Mersani shipyards have gone dark, and the Krylonian defense grid appears to be operating at minimal power. Several member species may be hedging their bets." Mitchell nodded, unsurprised. The Dominion's control was always based on technological superiority. We've shattered that illusion. Their coalition is fracturing exactly as we predicted. Back in the Dominion's diplomatic chamber, a new voice cut through the chaos. Supreme Commander Thrax, leader of the Dominion's military forces, appeared as a massive hologram. His chitinous armor gleamed as he spoke. "Our long-range sensors have detected something disturbing. quantum fluctuations consistent with cloaked vessels at multiple points across our territory. If the humans have somehow mastered quantum cloaking, the chamber erupted again. Quantum cloaking was theoretically impossible. The energy requirements alone would make it impractical. Yet the humans had already demonstrated several impossible technologies. Ambassador Zeland's voice cut through the noise. We must consider the possibility that humanity's advancement goes far beyond what the Starweaver has shown us. Their offer of peaceful cooperation may be more generous than we deserve. The architect's form flickered with barely contained rage. You suggest we capitulate to these upstarts, surrender 10,000 years of Dominion authority because of one ship and some phantom readings. I suggest we adapt to survive, Xylan responded coolly. The humans could have struck without warning, could have launched a surprise attack with their hidden capabilities. Instead, they chose to reveal themselves and offer negotiations. That speaks to either confidence or wisdom, perhaps both. On the Starweaver's bridge, a new alert caught Mitchell's attention. Commander, Chen called out, we're detecting massive energy spikes from the Dominion's quantum communication network. They're activating their emergency protocols. Dr. Santos frowned at her readings. The energy signature. They're attempting to access their sealed weapons archives. Third-era technology, if our intelligence is correct. Mitchell's expression remained calm, but her eyes hardened. Right on schedule. Lieutenant Chen, initiate Phase 2. Let's show them why accessing those archives would be a mistake. Across Dominion space, every quantum communications node simultaneously pulsed with a new signal. In the diplomatic chamber, on military vessels, in secure facilities across 1,000 worlds, the same message appeared. The weapons you're attempting to access were locked away for good reason. We've studied your history, your technological evolution. We know about the Cascade War, about why the Third-era weapons were sealed. We also know how to prevent their activation. This is your first and only warning. The architect's form actually flickered out for a moment before stabilizing. How could they possibly? Supreme Commander Thrax's hologram showed the first signs of uncertainty. The human ship. It's been reading our entire network since it arrived. Not just monitoring, comprehending, analyzing, countering. 2 hours remaining, Ambassador Zeland noted quietly. Perhaps we should spend them discussing terms rather than reactivating forbidden weapons. In the vast darkness of space, the Starweaver maintained its position, its hull still shifting and flowing like liquid metal. But now other distortions had become visible to the Dominion sensors, subtle ripples in space-time that suggested the human vessel was indeed not alone. Commander Mitchell watched the diplomatic feed with satisfaction. The Dominion was doing exactly what humanity had predicted, fracturing under pressure, its member species calculating their own best interests, now that the balance of power had shifted. Dr. Santos, she called out, prepare a detailed technical package for the Mersani delegation. Lieutenant Chen, signal the Artemis group to begin their approach. If the Dominion chooses conflict over cooperation, I want our response to be immediate and overwhelming. As the countdown continued, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity had hidden its advancement for nearly a century, growing stronger while appearing weak. Now, as the hours ticked away, the true scope of their deception and their power was about to become clear to all. The game of shadows and revelations was entering its final phase, and Commander Mitchell knew that win or lose, the galaxy would never be the same after this day. The only question was whether the change would come through peace or through a demonstration of force that would shake the foundations of Dominion power forever. As the final hour of humanity's ultimatum approached, the inevitable happened. Supreme Commander Thrax, against the increasingly divided Council's wishes, ordered his fleet to attack. The space around the Starweaver erupted with energy as hundreds of Dominion warships dropped out of FTL. Weapons charge. Final warning received and ignored, Commander. Lieutenant Chen reported, his fingers dancing across his console. Dominion fleet has us surrounded. reading weapons lock attempts from multiple vectors. Commander Mitchell straightened in her chair, her expression calm but alert. They chose pride over reason. Very well. Signal the Artemis Group. Execute Operation Checkmate. The first volley from the Dominion fleet was spectacular. Streams of quantum-tipped torpedoes and plasma lances converged on the Starweaver's position from all directions. For a moment, the human vessel disappeared completely in the blinding light of the attack. Supreme Commander Thrax's mandibles clicked in satisfaction as he watched from his flagship. No ship, no matter how advanced, could survive that concentration of fire. But as the energy dissipated, the Starweaver remained, its liquid metal hull rippling with absorbed energy. Before the Dominion fleet could fire again, space itself seemed to tear open around them. Massive vessels materialized from seemingly nowhere. The Artemis Group, humanity's hidden fleet, decloaking in perfect attack formation. By the first ones, Thrax whispered, his compound eyes widening as his tactical display updated. The human ships were unlike anything in Dominion records. Each vessel seemed to operate according to its own laws of physics, utilizing technologies that shouldn't exist together. Commander Mitchell's voice echoed through every Dominion ship's command frequency. You were warned. Humanity offered peace. You chose war. Now witness why that was a mistake. The Artemis Group ships moved with impossible grace. Their weapons were devastating but precise. Quantum beams that bypassed shields entirely, gravity pulses that crushed Dominion ships without harming their crews, temporal fields that left vessels floating helplessly in bubbles of slowed time. On the Starweaver's bridge, Dr. Santos monitored the battle with clinical interest. The Dominion fleet is attempting to adapt their shields to our quantum penetrators. Shall we show them why that won't work? Mitchell nodded. Execute the Einstein protocol. The space around the human fleet briefly distorted as they activated their most closely guarded technology. The laws of physics in the battle zone began operating according to human calculations rather than natural laws. Dominion weapons fire curved away harmlessly. Their shields flickered and failed, and their faster-than-light drives went dark. In the Dominion War Council chamber, the architect watched in horror as tactical displays showed ship after ship going silent. Not destroyed. The humans were deliberately avoiding casualties, but completely neutralized. Supreme Commander Thrax's flagship listed helplessly, its systems offline. His crew watched in stunned silence as a human shuttle approached, matching their spin perfectly. Through the viewport, they could see the Starweaver hanging against the backdrop of stars, untouched by their attack. Mitchell's voice came through again, this time tinged with something almost like pity. Your weapons were based on understanding natural laws. We learned to rewrite those laws. Your technology sought to master the universe as it exists. We learned to change the existence itself. The architect's energy form pulsed erratically. How? How did you advance so far without detection? Because you watched what you expected to see, Mitchell replied. Your observers reported our television shows, our political squabbles, our primitive rockets. They never thought to look deeper, to question why a species advancing so slowly kept perfectly to an expected development curve. Lieutenant Chen spoke quietly. Commander, we're detecting multiple quantum signatures. The Mersani defense fleet is powering down their weapons. The Krylonian systems are broadcasting surrender protocols. 3 more member species have formally withdrawn from the Dominion Coalition. Mitchell allowed herself a small smile. And now the coalition fractures. Just as planned. Your empire was built on technological superiority, architect. What happens to an empire when its subjects realize their masters aren't supreme after all? The battle, if it could even be called that, was over in less than 20 minutes. The mighty Dominion fleet hung powerless in space, their crews watching in shock as human ships moved freely around them, completely immune to their most powerful weapons. Dr. Santos reviewed the after-action data. Minimal casualties reported. Dominion crew survival rate at 99.98%. Their ships can be reactivated once negotiations are complete. "Well done, everyone," Mitchell said, standing to address her bridge crew. Phase 3 completed ahead of schedule. Now comes the interesting part, teaching them how to be partners instead of masters. In the darkness of space, the Starweaver's hull shifted again, its surface now perfectly mirror-smooth, reflecting the stars themselves. Around it, the Artemis group maintained their positions, a silent reminder of humanity's true capabilities. The message was clear to every species watching. The age of Dominion supremacy was over. Humanity hadn't just caught up to the galaxy's oldest empire. They had surpassed it completely. And they had done it right under the Dominion's nose, hiding their true nature until the perfect moment to reveal it. As emergency signals flooded across Dominion space and member species scrambled to reassess their allegiances, Commander Mitchell prepared for the next phase of humanity's emergence. The galaxy was changing, and change always brought chaos before order. But first, there was the matter of the Architect and Supreme Commander Thrax. Their actions today would determine whether they had learned enough to survive in the new galaxy that was about to emerge, a galaxy where humanity's hidden power would help reshape the very foundations of interstellar civilization. In the aftermath of the battle, the Dominion's leadership found themselves aboard the Starweaver, though not as prisoners. Commander Mitchell had insisted on face-to-face negotiations, and the ship's main conference room now hosted the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Architect's energy form was contained within a respectful quantum field, while Supreme Commander Thrax's massive frame occupied a specially designed seat. "Let me show you something," Mitchell said, activating a holographic display that filled the center of the room. "This is Earth, 50 years ago." The images showed exactly what the Dominion's observers had reported: primitive rockets, clumsy satellites, pollution-spewing factories. Then the image shifted, revealing vast underground complexes, hidden lunar facilities, and asteroid bases that had remained completely invisible to Dominion surveillance. While you watched our space shuttles lumber into orbit, Mitchell continued, we were already testing quantum drives in secret facilities throughout the solar system. Every failed rocket launch, every public setback was carefully choreographed. Dr. Santos stepped forward, her dark eyes gleaming. Your observers never questioned why human technology seemed to advance in such a predictable, linear fashion. In reality, we discovered your monitoring devices during World War II. Everything since then has been an elaborate performance. The Architect's form flickered with disbelief. Impossible. Our surveillance network was compromised from the beginning. Lieutenant Chen interrupted, bringing up new data streams. We learned to detect your quantum observation posts by 1962. By 1970, we could feed them false data. Everything you know about Earth's development in the last century has been carefully curated fiction. Supreme Commander Thrax's mandibles clicked rapidly. But the pollution, the primitive energy sources, the political conflicts. Mitchell smiled. All part of the deception. Those coal plants, holographic projections, the pollution. Harmless nanites designed to mimic industrial waste. The political conflicts. Some real, some orchestrated to maintain the illusion of a divided, primitive species. The holographic display shifted again, showing vast underwater cities, orbital habitats hidden in plain sight, and advanced research facilities buried beneath Earth's major cities. Humanity united in secret, Mitchell explained. While maintaining the appearance of division, Earth's nations pooled their resources and intellect. Every major scientific breakthrough was developed twice, once for public consumption matching your expected development curve, and once for our actual advancement. Dr. Santos pulled up technical specifications that made the Dominion leaders recoil in shock. We reverse-engineered your technology, yes, but then we took it in directions you never imagined. You built your empire on manipulating natural laws. We learned to rewrite them. The Einstein Protocol. Thrax muttered. That's how you did it. You're not just operating advanced technology. You're changing the fundamental rules of reality in localized spaces. Mitchell nodded. One of many breakthroughs we achieved while you watched our primitive space stations bumble through low Earth orbit. We needed you to remain confident in your superiority, to never suspect that humanity might be more than we appeared. The display showed more hidden facilities, more secret achievements, quantum computers disguised as primitive supercomputers, matter replicators hidden behind factory facades, Dyson swarm components masked as space debris. But why? The architect demanded. Why maintain this deception for so long? Because we studied your history, Mitchell replied, her voice hardening slightly. We saw how the Dominion treated species that advanced too quickly, how you'd stage accidents to set them back, or trigger conflicts to keep them divided. We saw the pattern, and we chose to avoid it. Lieutenant Chen brought up historical records, dozens of promising civilizations whose development had been mysteriously stunted just as they approached major technological breakthroughs. We knew we'd only get one chance, Mitchell continued, one opportunity to emerge as equals rather than subjects. So we waited, advanced in secret, and prepared for this moment. Every step was calculated, every advancement hidden behind a carefully maintained facade of primitive stumbling. The architect's form pulsed with something almost like admiration. The greatest deception in galactic history. You didn't just fool our observers. You fooled every species in the Dominion. Not quite every species, Dr. Santos corrected, bringing up new data. Some figured it out. The Mersani suspected something was wrong with our development curve. The Krylonians detected anomalies in our energy signatures. But they kept quiet, hoping we might finally break the Dominion's monopoly on advanced technology. Mitchell stood, her presence commanding the room despite her human stature. Now you understand why we chose to reveal ourselves this way. Humanity isn't just joining the galactic community. We're reshaping it. The question is, will the Dominion adapt and join us as equals, or cling to old hierarchies and fade into irrelevance? As the Dominion leaders absorbed the full scope of humanity's deception, alerts began flooding in from across their territory. More member species declaring independence, hidden human facilities revealing themselves throughout the galaxy, a century of careful preparation finally bearing fruit. The age of secrets was ending. But as Commander Mitchell knew, the real challenge was just beginning. Revealing humanity's true nature was one thing. Building the new and better galactic order would be quite another. And somewhere in the vast network of hidden human facilities, new technologies were already being developed. Because humanity had learned one crucial lesson from their long deception. There was always more to discover, always further to advance. The game of pretense was over, but humanity's true ascension was just beginning. 6 months after humanity's dramatic revelation, the galaxy had transformed. The massive central chamber of the newly established Galactic Concordat on Mars played host to representatives from hundreds of species. The architecture itself was a testament to human ingenuity. Walls that shifted like liquid crystal, gravity fields that accommodated every species' needs, and a quantum translation matrix that allowed perfect communication. Commander Mitchell, now serving as Earth's primary representative, stood at the central podium. Her white uniform had been replaced by formal diplomatic attire, though the Starweaver's insignia still gleamed on her collar. The old order fell not because we destroyed it, she addressed the assembly, but because it was built on a foundation of control rather than cooperation. Today, we begin something new. The chamber's displays showed the ongoing transformation across former Dominion space. Human technology, no longer hidden, was revolutionizing entire civilizations. The Mersani had already adapted quantum field manipulation to revolutionize their medical science. The Krylonians were implementing modified versions of the Einstein protocol for sustainable energy generation. The architect, now serving as a technical advisor rather than an absolute ruler, observed from a quantum field platform. You've accomplished more in 6 months than we managed in 1,000 years. Because we're not controlling the flow of technology, Dr. Santos explained from her position beside Mitchell. We're sharing it, letting each species adapt it to their own needs and culture. Innovation breeds innovation. Lieutenant Chen, monitoring the galaxy's quantum networks from his station, reported continuously updating statistics. Trade was flourishing. Cultural exchanges were transforming societies. Species that had been deliberately kept apart under Dominion rule were forming new alliances. Supreme Commander Thrax, who had surprised everyone by becoming one of the strongest advocates for the new order, addressed the assembly. The Dominion maintained power by keeping others weak. The humans proved there's greater strength in lifting others up. Mitchell nodded in agreement, which is why today's announcement is so important. She gestured, and new holographic displays filled the chamber. We've been holding back one final secret, something we developed during our years of hiding, something that will change everything again. The displays showed what appeared to be tears in the fabric of reality itself, stable, controlled ruptures in space-time. Dr. Santos took over the explanation, her excitement evident. We've discovered how to access parallel quantum realities, not just travel between them, but share energy and resources across dimensional boundaries. The energy crisis that has plagued our galaxy, solved. The resource wars that have devastated worlds, unnecessary. The chamber erupted in astonished discussion. Even the architect's energy form pulsed with surprise. Mitchell raised her hand for silence. But we won't control this technology. The Concordat will oversee its implementation, with every member species having equal input, because we learned the most important lesson during our years of pretending to be primitive. True power comes from cooperation, not control. She gestured again, and the chamber's walls became transparent, revealing the Martian landscape where massive construction projects were underway. The first Concordat Academy was taking shape, a place where all species could learn and develop the new technologies together. The age of secrets is over, Mitchell declared. The age of artificial limitations has ended. Together, we'll explore not just this universe, but countless others. We'll face new challenges, encounter new mysteries, and solve them not as rulers and subjects, but as equals. The architect's form glowed with an unusual warmth. When you revealed yourselves 6 months ago, I thought humans were simply replacing one empire with another. I was wrong. You weren't seeking power, you were seeking change. Change is what humans do best, Mitchell smiled. We spent a century pretending to be less than we were. Now we can finally be what we are: explorers, innovators, dreamers. And we invite every species to dream with us. As if on cue, the Star Weaver appeared in orbit above Mars, visible through the transparent ceiling. But now it was joined by ships of every species, each incorporating human innovations while maintaining their unique characteristics. A fleet not of war, but of exploration and discovery. Lieutenant Chen's console lit up with new data. The first parallel dimension expedition is ready, Commander. Representatives from 27 species volunteering to make the first journey. Mitchell looked out at the assembled beings. Former enemies now allies. Former subjects now equals. This is just the beginning, she said softly. We hidden our light for a century, advancing in secret. Now it's time to advance together, to see just how far we can go when we stop holding each other back. The chamber filled with approval, the sound of hundreds of species expressing hope in their own unique ways. The galaxy had been transformed not by conquest, but by revelation and cooperation. Humanity had emerged from its chrysalis of deception not as conquerors, but as catalysts for change. As the assembly moved to begin the day's work, Mitchell touched the Star Weaver's insignia on her collar. The ship had been their sword, revealing humanity's power. But now it would be their plowshare, leading the way into a future where deception was no longer necessary, where advancement was no longer feared. The dawn of the new era had truly begun, and somewhere on Earth, in still hidden facilities, human scientists were already working on the next breakthrough, the next revolution. Because if humanity had learned anything during their long deception, it was that there were always new frontiers to explore, new boundaries to push. The game of pretense was over. The real adventure was just beginning.